Hi, my name's Vince, and I recently got asked a question the other day by a work colleague. And he asked me how I write songs. Now, it's not a question that gets asked often. I think my girlfriend's asked me it in the past. And it's one of those questions that slaps you in the face with a big wet fish, and you kind of recoil because you're thinking, how the hell do I answer that? And where do I start? It's such a big question. So I'm going to come at it from two different perspectives. The first one is the non-pressurized environment, whereby the only pressure you put upon yourself is by yourself, which is not a good idea, especially when you're starting out. So let's just say I'm perched on the edge of my bed, I've got a guitar in hand, and I've just played something, 3 or 4 notes, and it's pricked my ears and it's made me go, that's quite nice, I like that. I keep playing it, I play it over and over and over. I pull out my mobile phone and I record what I'm doing, and I also explain what I'm doing as in notation. So I'm actually calling out the notes that I'm playing as I'm playing them. And anything that's slightly intricate and I think might be difficult to repeat, I will focus on that as well. And that's the way I would go about the very initial stages of developing an idea. The second perspective would be that I've been asked to audition for a band. They've hopefully sent me some songs that they've written, and all I've got to do is see if I can find a guitar part that's good enough for their songs, and it's got to be something that I like and something that they like. And it's not always easy to get those two things harmonized, but that's the pressurized environment. I would recommend not getting bogged down in theory too much, because it can sap the life out of the creative process. You know, sometimes it's nice to sometimes I just let my fingers find their way on the piano, and sometimes it works and most times it doesn't, but when it works, it really does work and it's lovely. I wouldn't sit there and think, right now because I'm playing a G minor 7th, I should go to a B flat 7. You know, I've got that knowledge in my sort of back catalogue of musical ideas and things that I've done in the past, so I know I can draw from that if I need to. But I never sit there and sort of, you know, make theory the one process that overrides everything. No, I'd rather strip the theory completely out of things. I mean, I know obviously technically you can't, but that's the way I like to think. Frees your mind. I think it opens up your mind, and just because, you know, you can sort of find yourself saying, "No, I won't go to the B flat because that's cliche," and it stops you from trying it. Well, why not try it? And if it's cliche, then don't do it. And if it's cliche, maybe embellish the chord, maybe throw in an alternate bass note over that B flat. I think if you apply theory to everything you're doing, you'll never have any ideas, because you'll always be saying, well, that could be better. There's got to be a more technical or more complicated theory. And I think I think it's detrimental to writing songs using theory myself. A good example of how to build an idea would be Pink Floyd's Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Now, hopefully you'll all know those iconic 4 notes from David Gilmour. Legend has it he dreamt up this idea at home or whatever, over cornflakes or whatever. It's turned up to the studio and just started playing it. Now, I don't think David Gilmour ever said, I've got an idea. I think what he used to do was just, and I suppose all musicians will do it differently, I guess, but he had a really clever way of doing it. He would just play it. he wouldn't say, he wouldn't broadcast the fact that he's got an idea. He would just play it, and that would genuinely spike somebody's interest if they were interested. And it's a psychological move, really, because if you just do something and play something, you get a natural reaction from other people, and certainly other musicians. So if you play something and you don't tell them what you're going to play, you can kind of get that, you get that look, that kind of glance from the bass player or the singer or whoever, and you know that, you know it's worked. You know what you've just produced there has got legs, and you can run with it. If you tell somebody, I've got this idea and I've got that idea, it's quite formulaic, and it takes the organic rawness out of things. I think it's more of a psychological move than a musical one, but nevertheless, it's quite a useful weapon to have in your arsenal. From a theoretical point of view, playing alternate bass notes is always nice to add. That always gives a slight juxtaposition on chords, and it just throws a different feel on things. So it's nice to use alternate bass notes, whether you use them on the piano or the guitar, it's up to you. That can often be quite helpful. That can kind of open up the possibilities to writing a song. I'm going to demonstrate one of my songs in a few minutes, and you'll see where that actually does come into play. Passing notes or passing chords, if you're technically at that point where you know what passing chords are and you know where to use them and how to use them, they're always nice. They tend to be the pretty things in between the chords, so they're not essential chords that you need to play in order to write a song, but it's just a little bit of icing on the cake. So passing chords are always nice to throw in. I wouldn't throw them in everywhere, but occasionally here and there it's nice to do. So as promised, we're going to spend the next 4 or 5 minutes looking at my new creation, and I'll talk you through the video as we're going. Apologies if I waffle too much. It's such a big, vast topic that it's really hard to break it down and remain interesting. So if you have fallen asleep, go and grab yourself a cup of coffee and we'll crack on. I'll take you through an idea I wrote on the piano about three or 4 years ago now, and I think through the 2 weeks that I was messing about with it, it kind of found its way as it is now. But it went through 2 changes because I wasn't happy with it. I knew the song had legs and I had a vocal melody in mind, but I didn't. There was something about it I wasn't happy with. It was a bit too cliche, and you're going to hear why. Okay, in B minor. Okay. The first developmental stage, I put in one variation on a chord, and that was all. So it went like this. Okay. Again, it just didn't sit right with me. I'm thinking, no, there's something that's not quite right. Something was nagging at me. So after fumbling around trying to find different chord shapes, different alternating bass notes with the left hand, I hit upon this. it was those variations in the chords that I made changes to that just turned it into the song that I wanted it to be. But it took a while. It wasn't so easy getting there. So I'm going to play it through twice, just that chord progression, and then I'm going to use a different interval here for the B minor. So I'm going to play it here, and then I'm going to play it here in the interval. Okay, so. Hopefully you'll agree that that chord progression now stands up on its own, because what I wanted was those chords just to be solid, stable, and there's no embellishing, there's no trickery. They're just solid chords, and if I want to embellish it, I can, but I wanted it to be my choice. So it is the fundamental part of the song. So I hope going through those 3 developmental changes, and it was only really, I mean, it was this chord here that did it. The B minor is, I mean, that's such a sad rainy day chord. It was just, it's just a lovely warm chord, and it's just an A, C sharp and an F sharp with an A bass note, and then going back to the B minor but playing a G on this hand as an alternating bass note. Listen to what happens if I go back to B minor with the bass hand. So we're going to just do straight B minor. See? It's not going anywhere. It goes back. It's got no way of resolving itself. So it's important that you try and find alternative bass notes. I know it's harder on the guitar to do that. The piano is obviously an instrument that lends itself to that quite easily, but it will often be your way of making a simple piece of music sound far more complex than it actually is. Carole King used to do this all the time. If you listen to Tapestry, it's almost like every chord has an alternate bass note, and it's so powerful, and yet so easy to do. Paul Simon is another one that does it a lot, and all the great songwriters tend to do that. James Taylor is another one as well. So it's an important, and you don't have to theoretically know which bass note to play, but just experiment. As ever, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It certainly helps me out. More videos like this to come shortly, exploring more niche areas of song composition, and yeah, stay well and take care of yourselves.